So welcome back to another episode of A Buddhist, Married, and Mormon. I'm Veronica.
I'm Duke.
And today I wanted to ask about the Book of Mormon. And when I suggested to Duke we were going to talk about the Book of Mormon today, he says, we can't do that in one episode. And I'm like, well, just give me like a general synopsis, blah, blah, blah. And he's like,
we can't do that in one episode either.
No. So we're going to do it his way. Over the next few episodes, he wants to talk about how the Book of Mormon came about.
And then, try to introduce it to those of you who don't know much about Mormonism in a way that covers the basis so you kind of get a good, thorough understanding.
So do you want to give us a little backgrounder on like all the chain of events really quickly that happened that led up to it being created? And then like it'll basically be like the table of contents for the next few episodes. However long that it's going to take for you to explain this all.
There's a lot to cover. So, it starts with Joseph Smith, who is a very young man in upstate New York, right around 1820, 1830. I think the Book of Mormon was published in 1830. He's confused about all the different religions going on at the time who had competing ideas, and there was a lot of missionary work and revival going on at the time, and he was very confused. So he decided he was going to ask God, as the story goes, and
ask God which church was true.
Which church was true, and he claims that God came to him in a vision, or came to him in person actually, and told him that none of the churches were true.
Like in person or an actual vision?
Yes. We'll get into that. And then he said later that an angel visited him and told him that God had a work for him to restore ultimately the gospel of God. And that there were some plates that were an ancient history of the American peoples. And
by American peoples, like in the United States, or the natives?
The Native Americans of North and South America.
So the Aboriginal people.
The Aboriginal people of the Western Hemisphere. So the angel comes to Joseph Smith and says, there's some plates. Here's where they are. Joseph Smith goes and looks at them, finds them under a rock, and the angel says, I want you to translate those. You can't do it just yet. Apparently there was a 4-year grace period in there where Joseph Smith had to prove his worthiness. And then at the end, he's given the plates some tools to translate. The plates are said to have been written in a kind of Reformed Egyptian, which would be very important later on in our series. Very important. Yeah, I thought you'd find that interesting. So this ultimately culminated in the publishing of what is now known as the Book of Mormon, and is the cornerstone of the Mormon faith.
So is it like a Bible?
A lot of people ask that. The church's way of explaining it is that it is another testament of Christ. Yeah.
So what is this book about? You said it's like the history of the American people, and it's written in Reformed Egyptian.
It was.
It was
translated.
It was translated into
It's English. Also worth saying that aside from a couple of cooperating witnesses, there is no evidence that these plates ever existed. So.
Oh, what happened to them? Are they in a museum?
An angel conveniently took them away.
So what's the story about? Can you give us a brief synopsis or the Cole's Notes version of what is this story about?
So basically, the premise of the Book of Mormon, it starts with a guy named Lehi, and he is commanded by God to leave the area. The people there are
Where's
wicked.
living, like Cincinnati?
No, like in Jerusalem.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. Ancient Jerusalem. And
so I just put it out there, like you said, just from some area. I'm like okay.
Pre-BC.
All right.
And so, no, not BC, pre-AD. And so God commands him to leave, and ultimately they have to build some ships, and they find themselves in the Americas, where they populate, and basically cover the Western Hemisphere. The premise being that the Native Americans are descendants of the children of Israel.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's...
Well, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I thought you'd find that interesting.
Well, it seems actually very plausible. I think I'm going to enjoy reading this Book of Mormon because it sounds... Yeah. I think I believe in the Book of Mormon already. Please learn more about it because I always enjoy reading the histories of Native American people because on my mother's side of the family, they are of Native American ancestry. And not only that...
You've known this because you've done a lot of genealogy.
I have done a lot of extensive genealogy over the past 5 or 6 years. And what's also kind of interesting is I did a DNA test. I wasn't planning on doing a DNA test, but he got some discount.
I got a 2-for-1 deal.
We got this deal,
and she was like, "I already know
my history." Yeah. So he said, "Well, I'm get the second one free, so I'm getting you one anyway." And it didn't really show me anything I didn't already know. I already knew I was part Native, except the part of me that is Native is also Egyptian.
So, bearing in mind what the Book of Mormon claims, that the Native Americans were populated by people from the Mesopotamian area.
Seems plausible.
Well, it does beg to question how your mitochondrial DNA on your mother's side shows Egyptian DNA.
Well, it's not just the mitochondrial DNA. It's actually your blended autosomal DNA is also mine is also Egyptian.
Right. So
not just the long-term DNA, but the short-term DNA of the last, 400 years is still showing traces of Egyptian.
So it's safe to say that we have in our discourse in the future episodes, the coming episodes, have some interesting reveals for you.
Yeah, maybe I'll teach a class on Reformed Egyptian and how to read it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I always like this kind of stuff, this history stuff. It really is interesting to me.
We have a lot to talk about.
So you'll have to tune back in and follow us with this new season because Duke is going to explain all of this stuff in detail, break it all down for me so I kind of understand how this all came about and let me ask questions. And if you have questions, always you can contact us on our backstage community on patreon.com.
Questions, comments, any ideas for a future show, all welcome.
So thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.